I didn't know that porcupines are big tree climbers, but look at this big mother. He's walking along and climbing that tree. It's midnight, or past midnight. We have a raccoon that keeps bugging us, so we put a candle outside the tent. Hopefully he won't come anymore. We've been throwing rocks at him for the last hour.
All right, here it is. Just because I talked about it in my video a couple of days ago on extending your hiking season into the winter, I talked about this little Yuko candle, and I said in the video I'd make a quick review. So here's the Yuko lantern. I've had this lantern for at least 25 years, and it is a brilliantly simple design. And let me show you a couple of things. Okay, so first of all, you can see by judging by the size of my hand how big this thing is, and let me measure it for you and show you. So it is 4 inches, and it's 2 inches across. So 4 inches, 2 inches across, and there's a candle in there. So when you pop it open, there's your candle. You can see on the side here that I still have a full candle, and I have a glass globe, and there's a tip at the top that's sort of a cap that's protective. Now that becomes hot when you light it. The way it's loaded, if you twist the bottom, you can remove the bottom, and then you have this spring-loaded cylinder. So now I will unscrew this, and the spring pops out, and when the spring pops out, and a little cap, and out comes the candle. So the candles are good for about 9 hours, and the candles are dripless. You can buy bags of these candles and online or at your various mountain stores, but you need to buy either the Yuko brand or a brand made for these candles, because you want them dripless. So I believe it's beeswax, and it burns without dripping. The wax actually burns. And like I said in the video, I had a hard time finding exactly the heat output, but you know, a candle like this will put out about 1800 BTUs. So it's it's not a huge amount of heat, but it is heat. Before I weigh the thing, I will reassemble just quickly. Zero my scale. .6 ounces, 132 grams. So not very heavy. And a candle, 44 grams, or 1.6 ounces. So it's quite easy to reload. Just take your candle, put it in there, and actually the cap stays attached to the spring, kind of. And just like that. And you light it. And there you have, you can see it's already forming a little bit of wax, but it's not going to drip. It'll actually burn. That wax will burn. And when you're ready to put it inside your candle, you just slip this over and lock it in place. And you just, one trick, there's a window on the side so you can see how much candle you have, but the candle's good for about 9 hours. So as is, you can leave it like that. on a picnic table to add a little ambiance. If you want to hang it in your tent, like I said in the video, I suggest that you string some paracord inside your tent and then hang it in your tent. Now, you're not going to read from this lantern very easily, but it'll shed enough light in the tent that you can see what you're doing when you're getting ready to go to bed. And on the top here, there's a protective cover. So there isn't a flame that's directly impinging on anything. Now that gets hot. I'll warn you right now, you don't want to touch that. That gets hot. But I've been hanging these in my tent for years. As long as you hang it about, you know, at least 6-7 inches from any material from the roof of your tent, you're not going to melt it or set it on fire. They're very easy to blow out. I mean, typically if they fall over on their side, they tend to go out. But let me just show you. You just blow through the top of it, and just like that, it's put out. Now, I just want to make a couple of comments regarding safety. You know, millions of these have been sold, and UCO wouldn't be in business if they had a bunch of lawsuits against them. Somebody on another video, I saw another video on hiking in winter where they recommended this lantern as well, and somebody made a comment that you could poison yourself with carbon monoxide. Well, first of all, the product of combustion from a typical candle is carbon dioxide and water vapor. It's almost, I'd say it's impossible to produce carbon monoxide with a candle. Carbon monoxide is produced in boilers and furnaces that are operating at very high temperatures and that suddenly get starved from oxygen. Then they will produce carbon monoxide. So this is not going to produce carbon monoxide. Now, that said, like anything, if your tent is extremely airtight and there's not a lot of fresh air getting in there, first of all, that's a bad thing, because you're going to get you could asphyxiate yourself just by consuming the air in there, and you yourselves, we humans, exhale carbon dioxide. But if you have a very, very tight environment and you put this, yes, you do run the risk of consuming more of the oxygen inside your tent. So warning, keep your tent well ventilated when you're using one of these. I'm going to show you, typically if you knock it over, I'm going to do an experiment here, it tends to extinguish itself. So I'm just going to knock it over. Great. Well, that didn't work very well. Now in the video that I did on camping outdoors in the winter, you saw that I had something over that. The reason is, if you want to leave it lit in your tent all night long, you're going to have a little bit of light, and some people don't sleep very well if there's light. So all I did was cut up a piece of, there you go. So just like that. And again, it'll still close. Hanging up on one side here. There you go. The little UCO lantern. So you saw in the experiment that I did outside, well, not the experiment, but I can tell you from experience and from showing it outside, if you're in a tent, first of all, when you're in your tent, you're protected from the elements. If you're blocking the wind and you sit in your tent, you yourself will put off heat and start warming up the inside of this tent, and then a little lantern like this will actually help create a little bit of convection current. The heat will rise, and you'll create a small little heat bubble and chase away that nippy frost in the tent. So makes things a little bit more comfortable. Quick story about one of these, actually. In one of my older videos, I think it's the one, well, no, I don't think, I know it's the one. It's in the Tonquin Valley. I was in the Tonquin Valley back in 90, or maybe 2003, 2004 with Karen, one of our early hikes. And on that trip, we had these Amurus porcupines that kept bugging us all night long. And at one point in the early evening, we had something happen, and just reaching under the fly, we saw this big clawed leg, and it was one of the porcupines. So one of the porcupines was persistently trying to get to our bag underneath the fly. You know, they're attracted to the salt and things like that. And so what I ended up doing, which worked quite well, is I took this lantern, but instead of putting it in there, I just took the candle out and I put the candle outside the tent and I lit it, and that candle, that little fire, kept that porcupine at bay all night long. Just an interesting story. Anyways, hope you enjoyed the video, folks.